Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Mostyn, for the opportunity to speak to everyone, and thank you, Adam, just for what you had to say. Just in addition to what Adam just said, Parking Australia has some information on our website, not just about the federal government stimulus measures for business, but also the state government measures. For those in, I'll just go through a couple of examples. For those in Victoria, you can apply for a small business grant, and you can do that through the link that's on our website. In Queensland, businesses can get interest-free loans, for example, and there's also a lot of other payroll tax concessions, etc. So all that information is on the Parking Australia website with all the list of all the state stimulus measures. The federal information that's on there is all up to date as of before yesterday afternoon's announcement around the details of JobKeeper, and we will get that up as well. Now, what I wanted to do is go through just 4 points. Just bear with me. 4 points around what's happening in the parking industry. First of all, what we're doing, hang on, let me go back. Here we go. We want to start with what we knew about the industry to begin with. Then we want to go on to what we know now, what we're doing, and also what we've achieved. And I know we're mindful of time, so I'll try and be fairly succinct. And I probably won't hit each of the points on the screen, but I'm sure that you can have a look at them. So what we did know about the industry was that revenue was in excess of about $4 billion per year. That's including airports, local government, private operators, universities, etc. What we do know is that private car park rentals are in the vicinity of 300 to 360 million per year. We'll come to that point a little bit later when we talk about the Commercial Tenancy Code of Conduct. We knew that the state congestion law parking space levies in those 3 states collected about 300 million. We've got what councils earned in revenue across the country from fines and fees. Parking industry employed directly around 10,000 people. That's not indirectly, that's directly. And that the parking industry minus what assets, as in the parking facilities, are worth, around 4.7 billion a year. We also knew that private parking occupancy was at about 90% or above across all the major capital cities. What we know now is that it has affected every part of the industry, both private, public and suppliers. But what I think we've been trying to communicate as of this week to the relevant governments is that the effects of COVID-19 or coronavirus haven't just been in the last 3 weeks, even though the effects have been drastic in the last few weeks. The parking industry's felt these effects that go back right to late January. And you may remember Chinese New Year celebrations were closed down or shut. I know in Melbourne, Sydney and Adelaide, for example, parking facilities around where the Chinese New Year celebrations were cancelled had significant drop-off in revenue as compared to previous years. As I said, we know that all segments of the industry have been affected and that car parks have not been included in state government shutdowns, and we've sought clarification on this. It's interesting, the governments have not said that you don't, well, they didn't say that you're an essential service. They did say for car parks that they are to remain open. Now, what we also know is, and this is the key one around the Commercial Tenancy Code of Conduct, is that especially the private parking operators have received little to no tenancy relief whatsoever. In fact, you could almost say the attitude has been go jump, which has been really disheartening as of late, given that we have pushed hard for the parking industry to get some tenancy relief through our discussions with the federal government around the Commercial Tenancy Code of Conduct. We also know that councils like the Brisbane City Council, just before their council elections last week, offered free parking, free on-street parking. Now, I'm pretty sure that when the Lord Mayor announced this just prior to the election, on the Friday, and election was on the Saturday, he had no understanding of the unintended consequences it would have on private operators. We also know that Victoria and Western Australia are really reluctant to budge on their congestion or parking space relief, for any relief for the industry. And here's the big kicker. Private car park occupancy has dropped to about 10% across our major cities. So you think about it, was 90 or over 90, it's now down to 10. Now, that's occupancy. That's not talking about permanents or taking permanents out. That's just actual occupancy, not revenue. And then you've got airports offering, some airports offering free parking, which has hit off-site airport parking severely. And then we've got the health unions and the public calling for free hospital parking and not really having an understanding of how the parking industry works. So the last couple of days I've been speaking with those unions to educate them on how the parking industry works. So what we're doing, we're working with state governments around the congestion levies. Sorry, I've missed there's a typo in there. I'll fix that one up later. We've been in direct contact with the federal government via their Corona Business Liaison Unit, which is a unit set up specially to liaise with peak bodies and for us to feed information and for them to seek information on the way back. We've been in direct contact with various media outlets, had a radio interview been filmed for 9 News, which hasn't been aired yet, probably over the weekend, and that's going to go nationally. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of members who have got concerns and pressure points, and also just want to have a listening ear where they can talk to someone. So that's what we've had many phone calls around that as well. You may have seen our promotion around contactless payments and apps that we started a couple of weeks ago, and a list of all of those. And if you haven't done that, can I recommend that you do? We've been busy collecting some data. And the last one is in response, probably not, because Parking Australia has the businesses as the members and not the individuals, our focus has really been on the businesses, but not as much on the individual. Excuse me. I'll share some information about this partnership with an organisation called Quality Minds. Quality Minds are offering a free 7-day program, which really is not necessarily just specifically about mental health, but it does have aspects around mental health to it, has aspects to do with resiliency, but it really is trying to help people with the way that they think and the way that they can look forward and set goals, and then how they might get to that. Now, there's a 7-day free program for that, which will then give you contact, and we'll put some details around that on our website and via our social media channels. And lastly, last bit, what we've achieved. We have got a 6-month deferral on New South Wales parking space levy, with continued discussions with the New South Wales government around making sure the payments going forward are around usage. We've educated some health unions, been in contact with the federal government around tenancy relief. We're also, the ATO have considering this, and the Commissioner for Taxes going to put some sort of recommendation through around what we could do around fringe benefits tax on car parking, and whether we can get something that can be changed, not legislatively, because that would take time, but in the relaxing of the rules. So they've agreed that it has health benefits for people to drive, and that businesses may want the health benefit for their employees to drive and park. And at the moment, businesses would have to pay fringe benefits tax on that. So we're trying to get a waiver on that to encourage businesses to purchase parking on behalf of their employees. There's some congestion levy relief that you can see we've been trying to get. We've been in contact with the capital cities around the unintended consequences of free or unenforced parking on the streets, and making plenty of media outlets aware of the issues related to the parking industry. As you can imagine, it's not easy to get some media coverage at the moment. And some days when you think you will get it, the High Court will put down a decision and kill any opportunity that you may have had or anything that you may have scheduled. So that's just a quick rundown from a Parking Australia point of view. And hopefully that wasn't too quick, Mostyn, but I didn't want to drag it out either.
Very good, mate. No, appreciate your time and you taking us through that. I think, you know, the individuals and helping people that have been stood down, and that initiative is a great initiative. So congratulations on pulling that together. I'd just like to, Anthony Pappas has got one question around the levy, Stuart. So Anthony, if you could just unmute and ask a question, please.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, Stuart. So you mentioned the 6-month deferral of New South Wales parking levy, and obviously with Victoria that hasn't been brought into place yet. Do you know if there's some discussion about that, or how?
I can tell you there is discussion. We have engaged with a political lobbyist who has met with the Victorian Treasury and put forward a document that we've put forward. I mean, we've written on a couple of occasions. I've spoken with people in Treasury. I've spoken to some chiefs of staff, but they've actually, as recently as late last week and again yesterday, sat down and talk about it. Where it's currently at is the Treasury are putting together some recommendations for the Treasurer to consider.
Yep. Okay. All right. It's just obviously, but most businesses are continuing to operate as usual and at a very reduced capacity, and often reducing their rates as well, with no relief with congestion. So I guess that's a concern around that. So hopefully we get some relief with that soon.
Yeah, great.
We hope so. And look, it's a big one. I know of facilities that if it, don't even worry about the rent. Occupancy is not even covering the congestion levy.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Great.
And also, to add on to that, it's not as if the Treasurer doesn't know about this. This is the annoying bit. There's members of Parking Australia who have great influence, and one of them owns a football stadium in Docklands, and that information has been put forward from the very top of the AFL to the Treasurer. So when Treasury go, oh, we don't know about the issue, frankly, it's straight out bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got one last.
Cheers.
Stuart, from Andrew Thornton. So Andrew, do you want to unmute yourself and ask that question, please?
Yeah, Stuart, it was just a question for the forum as much as anything else. I work for the New South Wales National Parks and Wildlife, and we're getting lots of people who are refusing to pay because they're going to die if they touch one of our machines. Just wanted to see if anyone else has got any tolerance for that. We're saying if you're that sensitive to it, you probably should have stayed at home. But again, just using the forum to ask, is anyone getting pressure or issues to waive fees because of the fear of using the machine, as opposed to a council decision that, you know, fees are inappropriate at this time? Thank you.
Well, I've got a question sort of that comes back to you. Is there a contactless way for them to pay?
There is. It's about putting their rego numbers. You know, they have to touch the machine to enter a license plate number. Now we can have some tolerance around that, but at this point in time, we're not going to accept as a defence for someone that gets a fine for not paying. They didn't want to use the machine because of COVID. There needs to have been a more substantial reason than that. Again, it's just, that's our position. I just wanted to see if anyone else has taken a different position, because I'd like to say we're all standing together in terms of that specific question.
Stuart, there's no contactless solution there, so they've definitely got to touch the machine. So
yeah.
They can do a tap and go for their credit card, but they'll still ultimately have to touch the machine.
Is there anyone in the on the webinar that's actually experiencing that? Who, you know, just unmute yourself and answer if you are. We might leave it there, Andrew. I can sort of maybe get some information. Stuart, I'm sure, is talking to a few other operators that may be going through that. So we might take that offline and get some more details back to you after the webinar.
Thanks, appreciate that. Thank you.
Great. Really appreciate your time, Stuart, and definitely Adam and Simon. I know he's just dropped off. Really appreciate the three of you guys. I hope it's been. I hope the information's been well received and it's been informative to the people that have jumped on. Really appreciate it. We've had a really good turnout today, so hopefully it might be something that we can continue to do something in the future. We've recorded the session today, so that'll be pushed out to everyone that's registered today. Also, we'll be putting some stuff out on our social media. So if you want to keep up to date with what we're doing, please jump on our social media channels of LinkedIn and Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and just follow UbiPark. That'd be great. Any feedback that we could receive from you guys today and what went well and anything that you want to reach out to me personally, we'd love to talk to you and anything we might be able to help out with. We know everyone's going through some tough times. So if there's anything at all that, even if it's just a chat, we're here to help out. So once again, thanks for everyone for attending and our speakers for giving up their time today. Really appreciate it. Thank you.